Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Theresa May is heading off to Salzburg today for a meeting with 27 EU heads of state. Her first since the Chequers proposal, and she is expecting or hoping for a better reception than she's had in the past from the EU 27, in spite of opposition from a large number of MPs in her own party to the Chequers proposals. Last night, the EU's chief negotiator, Michel Barnier, signalled a softening of his stance on the Irish border. We have this report from our political editor, Faisal Islam, in Salzburg, a warning it does contain some flash photography.
Theatrics, drama and musical harmony. Salzburg, the birthplace of Mozart, may yet prove an appropriate place for kick-starting the high diplomacy required to get a Brexit deal within weeks. The host, the youthful Austrian Chancellor Sebastian Kurz, offering some hope of progress.
It is necessary to avoid a hard Brexit. We must preserve the unity of the EU 27 and bring about a deal with Great Britain.
And last night, the chief Brexit negotiator, Michel Barnier, sounding diplomatic on the thorny issue of Northern Ireland.
We are ready to improve this proposal. Work on the EU side is ongoing. We are clarifying which goods arriving in Northern Ireland from the rest of the UK would need to be checked and where, when and by whom these checks could be performed.
The PM hopes for returns on her recent charm offensive on EU leaders and perhaps a vague statement on the future relationship with the EU at a special summit in November. The Salzburg summit is a key test for the harmony of the EU 27 over doing a deal with the UK on Brexit by mid-November. There is a danger, though, that some of the good news may be a little overstated, that the Prime Minister is merely getting from Europe some domestic political space to get her through her own party conference, and that the Europeans simply don't want to be blamed for killing Chequers, leaving that to Boris Johnson and the Tory Brexiters. Already, big companies are making decisions on the basis of no deal. As Sky News revealed yesterday, the Oxford Mini plant will stop producing cars immediately after we leave the European Union for at least a month, after its owners, the car giant BMW, activated the next stage of its no-deal contingency plan.
It's not Project Fear, this is a reality. These are chickens coming home to roost. Companies in the automotive industry are saying we've got to notify not just the workforce of what their arrangements are, but the government have got to take note of what's actually happening.
It was the annual summer shutdown which will be brought forward to cover several weeks following Brexit Day because of the rising risk of a disorderly exit. Some Brexiters argue that BMW were put up to it by the German government. The company says it has a duty to plan for the failure of talks that restart in earnest in Austria later today. Faisal Islam, Sky News.
Speak to our Europe correspondent, Mark Stone, who joins us now from Salzburg. Differing views, really, as to how much progress is going to be made towards a deal between the UK and the EU 27, Mark.
Yeah, I think things need to be a few things need to be made straight. Number one, this is an informal summit, so because of the rigid nature of the European Union, don't expect any sudden change in direction or change in process by the EU. There was a suggestion a couple of weeks ago that they might change their Brexit mandate, the mandate that they've handed to Michel Barnier. That's not going to happen. This is an informal summit, and so there will be no formal conclusions. But if there is to be a morphing of of the EU position, then we might get clues of that morphing at this beautiful city here, if only all summits took place in places like this. Theresa May will arrive later on this afternoon. There will be an informal dinner tonight. That will be her chance to be able to stake her case. Don't forget, this is the first time EU leaders have met together since the Chequers proposal was outlined by Theresa May, a proposal which clearly caused the resignation of her Brexit Secretary David Davis and her Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, because they believed it wasn't a true Brexit. Nevertheless, that was the deal that she managed to get together with her own cabinet, but it has already effectively been rejected by the EU side. The positives, Adam, are these. 80% of the Brexit process is done and dusted. The negative aspect is that the 20% that isn't done is the most difficult part, and that 20% involves two key areas. The Irish border. If Britain is intent on leaving the customs union, which it says it is, then you have to have a hard border, external border. That means a hard border on the island of Ireland. Both sides say that can't happen. How do you solve that conundrum? Michel Barnier said last night you solve it quite simply by keeping the Northern Ireland in the customs union. You have checks, some of which already take place. Agricultural checks take place between the British mainland and Northern Ireland. You just up those checks. No, says Britain, that's not possible, because by putting Northern Ireland in a separate customs zone, you're effectively splitting up the British Isles. So that is a non-starter. So that's one issue. The other issue is the future relationship. It's all about Chequers. It's about whether Britain is cherry-picking. Plenty to discuss.
Mark Stone, thank you very much indeed. Well, let's get the thoughts now of Lord Kerr. He was, of course, the man who drafted Article 50, which is how you can exit the EU, also former UK ambassador to the EU and very senior diplomat indeed. Welcome to you. Now, you basically think Mrs May's whistling in the wind pursuing this deal, don't you?
I don't think the deal on the table from Chequers will fly. I think that there will be very warm, friendly noises made in Salzburg tonight and tomorrow. I think that there's a degree of hang on to nurse for fear of something worse, and they don't want to embarrass her and cause her a difficulty before her party conference. But I would expect warm noises not to be accompanied by any real changes.
So you don't think there's going to be a deal?
I don't know. I have no idea. What I fear is there might well be a withdrawal treaty deal. I don't know how you solve the Irish frontier problem, but supposing you do, there might well be a withdrawal treaty deal accompanied by a declaration about the future which contains no real substance, soft on specifics, and then we have to negotiate our future relationship once we've left.
Because you are now coming out supporting this People's Vote campaign. And that really is predicated on Parliament refusing to endorse whatever is agreed, isn't it? Because if Parliament agrees it, then we go out without any further turmoil.
Absolutely right, Adam. And we, in this report that we published yesterday, we list the various opportunities MPs will have to respond to what is clearly a very strong groundswell of public opinion that there should be an attempt to secure the informed consent of the British people for what is actually going to happen. The public opinion polls are very striking. There's a majority across the country in favour of a second vote. If there were no deal, that majority is 2-1 in favour of a second vote.
The odd thing is you and Jacob Rees-Mogg are effectively in the same boat, aren't you? You want the Prime Minister's efforts to fail so that you can then have a second referendum.
No, I have absolutely no influence on whether the effort succeeds or fails. I want to answer three questions.
Well, you're a parliamentarian. I mean, you remember the House of Lords.
The House of Lords, bows to the House of Commons and all such matters. I'm answering three questions. One, is the die cast? Is it too late? No. If we wanted to take the Prime Minister's letter back, the others would be delighted. No problem. Two, is there time for a second referendum? Yes, there is, and if we needed more time, the others would give it to us. And thirdly, how do we get there if the government is against the idea? And that rests on where you came in. If public opinion is in favour of it, will the House of Commons actually decide that no, we must be marched out, there must be no check that this is what the people want?
I mean, the problem is that is what the people voted for. It's what MPs have endorsed by large majorities. And, you know, if you were looking on, you might say Mrs May is trying to make the best of it, that she knows that 52% voted to leave, she knows that 48% are unhappy with that, so she's trying to leave doing the least possible damage, and that, you know, the elites, of which you, Lord Kerr, might be considered a representative, are just trying to reverse that because you don't like it.
52-48 is now actually the other way round, but that's not the point. I agree with you. I think Mrs May is making the best of a very bad job, a very difficult task, and she has my sympathy.
And you're not supporting her?
I believe we're doing the wrong thing. I believe that there is no undamaging form of Brexit, and I believe that has become clear as the promises made by the Leavers in the campaign in 2016 have proved unfounded.
How confident are you that public opinion has changed? You say it's spun around. I mean, there might be many people who think, well, I didn't vote for it, but if the majority voted for it, I should go with it.
Yeah, I think it's the swing back towards the Remain side is a small swing. There is no huge majority in the country against that. That's true. What there is a huge majority for in the country is checking whatever deal, not today, but when it is clear what the deal is, or it is clear there's going to be no deal, checking that the country still agrees.
But the problem with this people's vote, we don't even know what the question would be, because it might be, as you would like, remain on present terms or accept the deal as negotiated, but it might be that the other choice is hard Brexit, crash out.
Well, if there's no deal, then the question obviously is, do we leave or do we stay? Or do we leave with no deal? If there is a deal, then it is conceivable that there should be a free option question. And we discuss all that in this paper. Actually, on grounds of simplicity, I think we would come down to a binary choice like last time. But that's for decision by these great men in the House of Commons.
Okay.